The Great Hall of the Galactic Federation buzzed with hundreds of different voices. Creatures from every corner of the galaxy sat in their floating chairs, discussing the day's agenda. Some looked like walking crystals, others were made of pure energy, and a few resembled giant insects with colorful wings. Despite their differences, they all shared one thing. They were civilized beings who had lived in peace for thousands of years. Chancellor Vexthul, a tall crystalline being whose body sparkled like diamonds, called for silence. His voice echoed through the massive chamber as translators converted his words into hundreds of languages. Today's topic was special. After watching a small blue planet for many years, the Federation was ready to make a decision about its inhabitants. "We gather today to vote on Earth's admission to our Federation," Vexthul announced. "The humans have shown remarkable progress in recent decades. They have stopped their major wars and begun to explore space. Perhaps it is time to welcome them into our peaceful alliance." On the viewing screen, images of Earth appeared. Cities sparkled with lights, rockets launched toward the stars, and humans worked together on various projects. The Federation members watched with interest, some making soft sounds of approval. Ambassador Shalthis, whose crystal body glowed with soft blue light, stood to speak. "Honored members, I have studied these humans carefully. They are young and energetic. Yes, they have had conflicts in their past, but so did many of us before we found enlightenment. They show great potential for growth." A voice came from the Ceridian section, where reptile-like beings sat in heated chairs. "Their technology is primitive, but their creativity is remarkable. They make art, music, and stories that are quite entertaining. They could add interesting culture to our Federation." From the gaseous section, an ethereal being spoke in musical tones. "They have strong emotions and bonds with each other. This is different from most species, but it could be valuable. They care deeply about their families and communities." The debate continued for hours. Some worried that humans were too aggressive, pointing to their history of wars. Others argued that humans had learned from their mistakes and were ready to join civilized society. A few noted that humans had never developed the advanced peaceful technologies that other species possessed. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his office aboard the space station New Horizon, orbiting Earth. He was reading reports about strange signals that Earth satellites had been detecting for weeks. The signals came from deep space and seemed to carry some kind of message, but no one could understand them. His assistant, Lieutenant Amy Foster, knocked on his door. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission. It's different from the others. The computer says it's trying to communicate in our language." Jake hurried to the communication center. On the main screen, symbols appeared and slowly transformed into English letters. The message was simple but incredible. "Greetings, people of Earth. We are the Galactic Federation. We wish to speak with your leaders." Within hours, world leaders gathered via video conference. President Ryan Carter spoke for Earth as the alien message continued. The beings identified themselves as peaceful explorers who had been watching Earth for many years. They were impressed by human progress and wanted to invite Earth to join their alliance of civilized worlds. Dr. Lisa Chen, Earth's top scientist specializing in the possibility of alien life, could hardly believe what she was hearing. She had spent her entire career wondering if humans were alone in the universe. Now, not only were there other intelligent beings, but they were offering friendship. The Federation's representative explained that their alliance included 237 different species spread across thousands of worlds. They had eliminated war, poverty, and suffering through advanced technology and wisdom gained over millions of years. Trade flowed freely between worlds. Knowledge was shared openly, and conflicts were resolved through peaceful discussion. "We have watched your species grow," the alien voice said through the translator. "You have made mistakes, as all young species do, but you have also shown the ability to learn and change. We believe you are ready to join the galactic community." President Carter asked many questions. What would joining mean for Earth? What responsibilities would humans have? The answers were encouraging. Earth would receive advanced technologies to solve problems like disease, hunger, and environmental damage. In return, humans would contribute their unique perspectives and cultures to the Federation. The alien representative, who identified herself as Ambassador Shalthis, requested permission to visit Earth directly. "It is our tradition to meet face-to-face before formal membership begins. I would like to come to your world to sign the friendship agreement." Back in the Federation chamber, the voting was about to begin. Chancellor Vexthul had heard all arguments and was ready to call for the decision. All in favor of inviting the humans of Earth to join our Federation, please indicate. Lights began appearing throughout the chamber as species after species voted yes. The Crystalline Council voted yes. The Sauridian Republic voted yes. The Ethereal Collective voted yes. Even the cautious insectoid hive, known for being careful about new members, voted in favor. When the counting finished, the result was clear. 847 votes in favor, 0 votes against. It was the most unanimous decision in Federation history. The hall filled with pleased sounds as different species celebrated in their own ways. It is decided, Chancellor Vexthul announced. The humans of Earth are hereby invited to join the Galactic Federation as our 238th member species. May this bring prosperity and peace to all. 3 days later, Ambassador Shalthus arrived at Earth in a ship that looked like flowing water held in the shape of a vessel. World leaders gathered at the United Nations building in New York to meet humanity's first alien visitor. She was beautiful in an otherworldly way, standing 7 feet tall with a body that seemed carved from living crystal. People of Earth, she said, her voice somehow speaking every language at once. On behalf of the Galactic Federation, I present you with this invitation to join our peaceful alliance. Together, we will explore the stars and build a better future for all sentient beings. President Carter accepted the golden device that contained the formal invitation. As he held it, he felt the weight of history. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. They were about to become part of something vast and wonderful, a community of beings dedicated to peace, knowledge, and mutual support. Dr. Chen watched the ceremony with tears in her eyes. After so many years of searching for signs of life among the stars, life had found them instead. The future looked brighter than anyone had ever dared to imagine. 6 months had passed since Ambassador Shalthus first arrived on Earth. Now, humans walked the streets of alien cities, worked alongside beings from distant stars, and learned technologies that seemed like magic. The galaxy had welcomed them with open arms, and humanity was eager to prove they belonged among the civilized species. Ambassador Kate Williams stood on the observation deck of the Federation Embassy on Centris Prime, the capital world of the galactic government. Below her stretched a city that defied human understanding. Buildings floated in the air without any visible support, connected by bridges made of solid light. Transportation tubes carried citizens through the sky in streams of energy. Everything was clean, efficient, and peaceful. It never stops being amazing, she said to her assistant, Commander Greg Martinez, who had been assigned to help with human-alien relations. 6 months ago, we didn't even know aliens existed. Now look at us. Greg nodded, watching a group of ethereal beings float past the window like living clouds. The technology here is incredible. Dr. Hayes says they have machines that can turn empty space into any material they need. No one goes hungry, no one lacks shelter, and everyone has access to education and healthcare. Kate had spent weeks learning about Federation society. What impressed her most was not just their technology, but their attitude. War was considered an ancient barbarism that civilized beings had moved beyond. Conflicts between species were resolved through discussion and compromise. Crime was almost unknown because everyone's needs were met through advanced manufacturing systems. On the other side of the galaxy, Colonel Danny Rodriguez was having a very different experience. He had been assigned to work with the Federation Peacekeeping Corps, learning their methods of maintaining order across thousands of worlds. What he found puzzled him. I don't understand, he said to Captain Beth Thompson, who commanded the human military observers. They call this a military force, but they don't have any real weapons. The Federation soldiers carried devices that could put people to sleep, create force fields, or temporarily paralyze aggressive individuals. Their ships were equipped with tractor beams and pacification rays. Everything was designed to stop conflicts without causing permanent harm. It makes sense when you think about it, Beth replied, watching a group of Sauridian peacekeepers practice with their stunning devices. They've had peace for so long that they've forgotten how to fight real wars. Why would they need deadly weapons when everyone talks out their problems? Danny frowned. Something about it bothered him, though he couldn't say why. In his experience, there were always people who didn't want to talk, who preferred taking what they wanted by force. But maybe humans were just too suspicious after their own violent history. Meanwhile, Dr. Peter Hayes was working in the Federation's main research facility, a massive space station that orbited Centris Prime. The alien scientist had welcomed him eagerly, excited to learn about human approaches to problem-solving. What surprised him was how little new research was actually happening. "We solved most major scientific problems thousands of years ago," explained Dr. Thalvinus, a crystalline being who supervised the physics department. "Our matter converters can create anything we need. Our medical systems can cure any disease. Our energy systems provide unlimited power. What more could we want?" Peter found this attitude strange. On Earth, scientists were always pushing boundaries, always looking for new discoveries. Here, the aliens seemed content with what they had. They maintained their technology but rarely improved it. "But surely there are still mysteries to solve," Peter said. "New questions to ask, new frontiers to explore." Dr. Thalvinus made a sound that the translator interpreted as gentle laughter. "You humans are so energetic. Most species go through that phase when they are young. Eventually, you learn to appreciate stability and contentment." The cultural exchange was going well in other areas. Human music had become popular on several worlds. The Ceridians loved rock and roll, finding the heavy rhythms exciting in ways their own gentle melodies could never be. The Ethereals were fascinated by human poetry, especially pieces that dealt with strong emotions like love and loss. Artist Sarah Mitchell had set up a studio on the trade world of Nexus Station, where she taught painting to anyone interested. Her students included beings who had never seen physical art before. Since most Federation cultures had moved to pure digital creation, it's wonderful to see them discover the joy of making something with their own hands, she told her friend Jake Morrison during one of their regular video calls. Or tentacles or energy fields, depending on the species. They're so used to having machines make everything perfect that they've forgotten the pleasure of creating something imperfect, but personal. The Federation species were equally fascinated by human emotions. Most advanced civilizations had learned to control their feelings through technology or meditation, seeing strong emotions as primitive and disruptive. Humans displayed joy, anger, sadness, and excitement in ways that seemed both childish and refreshing to their new alien friends. Ambassador Shalthis had become something of an expert on human behavior. She regularly filed reports to the Federation Council about these strange new members who laughed loudly at jokes, cried at sad stories, and formed intense friendships that lasted their entire short lives. "They are remarkably social creatures," she wrote. "Unlike most advanced species, they have not learned to regulate their emotional responses. This leads to inefficiency in some areas, but it also produces unexpected creativity and strong motivation. They form bonds with others that drive them to great efforts on behalf of their communities." Life was good for humanity in the Federation. Earth had received medical technology that eliminated most diseases. Hunger was ending as matter converters were installed in major cities. Clean energy systems were solving environmental problems that had worried scientists for decades. President Carter addressed the United Nations 6 months after first contact. "This is truly a golden age for humanity," he said. "We have found our place among the stars, and that place is bright with promise. Our new friends have shown us wonders beyond imagination, and we have much to learn from their peaceful ways." But not everyone was completely comfortable with the changes. General Sophie Martinez, Earth's top military commander, had been reviewing Federation defense protocols. What she found worried her. "It's like they've forgotten that bad things can happen," she told her staff during a classified briefing. "Their entire defense strategy assumes that everyone will act reasonably and talk out their problems. They have no plans for dealing with enemies who won't negotiate." Her aide, Major Tom Wilson, nodded. "The historical records show that they've had peace for over 50,000 years. Maybe they really have evolved beyond violence." Sophie wasn't convinced. Or maybe they've just been lucky. In human history, peace never lasted forever. Something always came along to disrupt it. Pirates, invaders, natural disasters, resource conflicts. These aliens seem to think they've solved all those problems permanently. Still, the warnings were theoretical. The Federation had indeed maintained peace for an incredibly long time. Their systems worked, their people were happy, and there were no signs of serious threats anywhere in the galaxy. As Kate Williams fell asleep in her quarters on Centris Prime, she reflected on how much had changed. Humanity had gone from being alone in the universe to being part of a vast, peaceful community. The future looked brighter than anyone could have imagined just months before. What could possibly go wrong? The first sign of trouble came from the Outer Rim territories, far from the peaceful core worlds where most Federation species lived. Long-range sensors detected something moving in the empty space. Between galaxies, something vast and mechanical that had been dormant for countless ages. Dr. Peter Hayes was working late in his laboratory when the emergency alerts began flashing across every screen in the research station. The peaceful hum of the facility was replaced by urgent warning tones that he had never heard before. Federation personnel moved with unusual speed, their normally calm demeanor replaced by something approaching panic. "What's happening?" Peter asked Dr. Thalvinus, who was frantically checking data streams from distant monitoring stations. "The Void Hunters have awakened," Thalvinus replied, his crystalline body flickering with stress patterns. "We thought they were just a legend. Stories from the ancient times before the Federation brought peace to the galaxy." On the main display, images appeared that made Peter's blood run cold. Massive mechanical ships, each one larger than Earth's moon, moved through space with deadly purpose. They consumed everything in their path: planets, stars, entire solar systems, converting matter into more ships for their growing fleet. The Federation Council convened an emergency session, something that hadn't happened in over 1,000 years. Chancellor Vexthul's usually bright crystal body had dimmed with worry as species. Representatives argued about how to respond to this unprecedented threat. "We must attempt communication," insisted the ethereal representative, their voice musical even in distress. "All conflicts can be resolved through peaceful dialogue. These machines must have some purpose we can understand." The Sauridian delegate disagreed. "We tried sending messages. They ignore all communication attempts. These things don't respond to reason." Ambassador Kate Williams watched the debate from the human observation section. The Federation's response seemed painfully slow and bureaucratic. While they discussed proper diplomatic protocols, the Void Hunters were destroying entire worlds, filled with billions of innocent people. "How long will they debate?" she whispered to Commander Martinez. "Too long," he replied grimly. "They've been peaceful for so long that they've forgotten how to make quick decisions during a crisis." Meanwhile, the Federation's peacekeeping forces mobilized for the first time in millennia. Their beautiful ships, designed for crowd control and humanitarian missions, launched toward the threat with ceremonial fanfare. The crews were confident that their advanced technology and peaceful intentions would somehow resolve the situation. Colonel Danny Rodriguez watched the fleet departure from his training facility and felt a growing sense of dread. He had seen the Void Hunter ships on the intelligence reports. They were clearly built for war, covered in weapons and armor that the Federation's pacification technology was never designed to handle. "This is going to be a disaster," he told Captain Thompson. "Those peacekeeping ships might as well be flying targets." The first battle confirmed his worst fears. The Federation fleet approached the Void Hunters with weapons powered down, broadcasting messages of peace and offers to negotiate. The mechanical invaders responded with overwhelming firepower that tore through Federation shields like they were made of paper. Within minutes, half the peacekeeping fleet was destroyed. The surviving ships retreated in disorder, their crews shocked by violence beyond anything they had experienced or imagined. The Void Hunters ignored the retreat and continued their advance toward populated systems. Commander Alex Turner of the Human Destroyer, UES Defiance, received the distress calls while patrolling near the Federation border. His ship was one of several human vessels that had been assigned to cultural exchange missions, since the aliens considered human military technology too primitive for serious peacekeeping work. "Captain, we're receiving emergency transmissions from the Federation fleet," reported Lieutenant Rachel Moore, his communications officer. "They're requesting immediate assistance." "It sounds bad." Alex made a decision that would change everything. Despite orders to maintain his patrol route, he commanded his ship toward the battle zone. What he found there horrified him. Debris from Federation ships floated in space while Void Hunter vessels methodically stripped a nearby planet of all resources. "Those things are like a galactic plague," he said, watching the mechanical ships work with terrifying efficiency. "They consume everything and turn it into more of themselves." The UES Defiance was a small ship compared to the massive Void Hunter vessels, but it had something the Federation fleet lacked: weapons designed to destroy rather than pacify. Alex ordered his crew to attack the nearest enemy ship with kinetic rounds and nuclear missiles. The Void Hunters had not expected resistance from such primitive weapons. Their shields were designed to stop energy beams and exotic particles, not simple chunks of metal moving at high speed. The human attack actually damaged one of their ships the first time anything had successfully hurt the mechanical invaders. But one small human ship could not stop an entire fleet. The Void Hunters adapted quickly, reinforcing their defenses and turning their attention to this new threat. Alex was forced to retreat, but not before sending detailed combat reports back to Earth. General Sophie Martinez read those reports with growing alarm. The Federation's military was not just outdated, it was completely unsuited for actual warfare. Their entire doctrine was based on the assumption that all conflicts could be resolved peacefully. They had no experience with enemies who simply wanted to destroy everything in their path. "We need to act fast," she told President Carter during an emergency briefing. "The Void Hunters are adapting to every tactic the Federation tries. At their current rate of advance, they'll reach the core worlds within months." President Carter faced an impossible decision. Earth was the newest member of the Federation, barely accepted by the other species. How could humanity presume to tell advanced civilizations how to defend themselves? Yet it was clear that the Federation's peaceful approach was failing catastrophically. Dr. Lisa Chen had been studying the Void Hunter technology from the battle debris that Alex Turner's ship had collected. What she found was deeply disturbing. These machines are designed for one purpose: total consumption of all organic matter in the galaxy. They're not even truly intelligent in the way we understand it. They're more like a virus, programmed to spread and consume until nothing else remains. The Federation Council's debates had devolved into chaos. Some species wanted to evacuate entire sectors and hoped the Void Hunters would eventually stop their advance. Others insisted that there must be some peaceful solution that hadn't been tried yet. A few suggested surrendering and hoping the machines would spare them in exchange for cooperation. "This is insane," Kate Williams said to Ambassador Shalthus during a break in the sessions. "They're talking about abandoning billions of people while they search for a diplomatic solution to machines that don't even communicate." Shalthus's crystal body was dim with distress. "You must understand, we have lived in peace for so long that war has become unthinkable to us. We don't even have words in most of our languages for the concepts you humans call strategy and tactics." Another Federation fleet was being assembled, larger than the first but equipped with the same ineffective weapons and the same peaceful mindset. The commanders still believed that superior technology and good intentions would somehow prevail against an enemy that viewed all organic life as nothing more than raw materials to be processed. Jake Morrison, now promoted to admiral and placed in command of Earth's growing space fleet, received urgent orders from President Carter. "You are authorized to engage the Void Hunters directly, using any means necessary to protect Federation worlds and citizens. The normal rules of engagement are suspended." As Jake prepared his ships for battle, he reflected on the tragic irony of the situation. The Federation had invited humanity to join them because they seemed peaceful enough to fit into their utopian society. Now humanity's capacity for violence might be the only thing that could save that same society from complete destruction. The peaceful galaxy that had existed for 50,000 years was about to discover that sometimes the only way to preserve peace was to be very, very good at war. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching his fleet prepare for humanity's first real battle as members of the Galactic Federation. Around him, 27 human warships powered up weapons that the aliens had dismissed as primitive just months before. Now those same weapons might be the galaxy's only hope. "All ships report ready for combat," announced Captain Linda Hayes, his second in command. "Nuclear missiles armed, kinetic weapons loaded, and electromagnetic pulse charges prepared." Jake nodded grimly. President Carter had given him complete authority to engage the Void Hunters using any tactics necessary. For the first time since joining the Federation, humans would not be following alien protocols for peaceful resolution. They would fight as humans had always fought, to win at any cost. The Void Hunter fleet was massive, stretching across several light years of space as it consumed the outer rim systems. Federation refugees fled before them in every available ship, carrying terrifying reports of entire worlds being stripped down to bare rock in a matter of hours. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Chancellor Vexthol," reported the communications officer. He's asking us to coordinate with the new Federation peacekeeping fleet that's approaching from the other side. Jake almost laughed, but the situation was too serious. The Federation was still sending peacekeeping ships equipped with stunning weapons and pacification beams to fight an enemy that had already proven immune to such tactics. Their inability to adapt was going to cost millions of lives. Tell the Chancellor that we appreciate his offer, but human forces will engage independently, Jake replied. We'll try to draw the enemy's attention while the Federation fleet evacuates civilians. What Jake didn't say was that he expected the Federation fleet to be destroyed just as quickly as the previous ones. The aliens simply could not accept that some problems could not be solved through peaceful discussion and superior technology. On the planet Kelos Prime, Lieutenant Maya Brooks led a squad of human Marines in a desperate evacuation mission. The Void Hunters had begun landing operations, sending smaller mechanical units to harvest the population and resources that their ships could not reach from orbit. Move, 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 Maya shouted as her team escorted Kelosan civilians toward the transport ships. The local peacekeepers, crystalline beings similar to Ambassador Shalthis, were trying to negotiate with the mechanical harvesters even as their people were being captured and processed. You must listen to reason, one of the peacekeepers insisted, broadcasting on all frequencies to the machines. We can find a peaceful solution that benefits everyone. The Void Hunter units ignored the messages completely, continuing their systematic collection of organic matter. Maya watched in frustration as the aliens wasted precious time trying to communicate with enemies that had no interest in communication. Sarah, take your fire team and clear that landing zone, Maya ordered Sergeant Sarah Collins. Use whatever force necessary. These things don't respond to anything except high explosives. The human Marines opened fire with weapons that would have been considered barbaric by Federation standards. Assault rifles, grenade launchers, and plasma charges tore through the Void Hunter ground units with devastating effect. The machines had not expected such aggressive resistance from organic beings. Back in space, Admiral Jake's fleet engaged the main Void Hunter force in the first true military battle the galaxy had seen in millennia. The human ships moved in attack formations that Federation tacticians had never imagined, using speed and maneuverability to strike at enemy weak points before retreating to safer positions. Target their communication arrays, Jake commanded. If we can disrupt their coordination, we can defeat them in smaller groups. The Void Hunters had superior numbers and more advanced defensive systems, but they had been designed to fight the peaceful Federation forces that relied on overwhelming technological superiority. They were not prepared for enemies who used deception, misdirection, and calculated aggression. Nuclear missiles penetrated Void Hunter shields by approaching from unexpected angles. Kinetic weapons punched through armor that had been designed to stop energy beams. Most importantly, human tactics were based on the assumption that the enemy would adapt and counterattack, something the Federation had never learned to plan for. Dr. Peter Hayes worked frantically in his laboratory, analyzing captured Void Hunter technology, while human and Federation forces battled across dozens of star systems. What he discovered changed everything. They're not just randomly destroying things, he reported to the Combined Command Center. They're following a program, a set of instructions that was written millions of years ago. Someone created these machines and pointed them at our galaxy. General Sophie Martinez received this news while coordinating the defense of 3 major Federation worlds. Can we reprogram them? Turn them off somehow? Not with the time we have, Peter replied. But I've found something else. They have a central command network. If we can locate and destroy their primary control ships, the rest of the fleet should become disorganized. The information reached Admiral Jake just as his forces were preparing for another major engagement. The Void Hunter fleet had adapted to human tactics and was beginning to counterattack more effectively. Several human ships had been lost and ammunition was running low. All ships new target priorities, Jake announced. We're looking for command vessels. They'll be larger than the others and heavily defended. Dr. Hayes says destroying them will cripple the entire fleet. Meanwhile, the Federation's own military leaders were finally beginning to understand that their peaceful approach was not working. Ambassador Shalthis met with Colonel Danny Rodriguez at a joint command post, her crystal body flickering with stress and confusion. We don't understand how your people can be so effective at violence, she admitted. Our entire civilization is based on the principle that conflicts can be resolved through reason and negotiation. Watching humans fight goes against everything we believe. Danny tried to explain gently. Sometimes there are enemies who don't want to negotiate. They just want to destroy everything you care about. When that happens, you have to be willing to fight back. Or you lose everything. The breakthrough came when Lieutenant Maya Brooks and her Marines captured an intact Void Hunter command unit during a ground battle on the industrial world of Mechanus 7. The machine's data cores contained detailed information about the fleet's organization and control. "Systems, we've got them," Maya reported as her technicians extracted the crucial intelligence. "The command ships are using quantum entanglement to coordinate the entire fleet. If we can disrupt those connections, the individual ships will lose their ability to work together." Admiral Jake received this information during what appeared to be a losing battle against overwhelming odds. His fleet was outnumbered 10 to 1, and the Void Hunters had begun using new tactics that mimicked human aggression. But the intelligence from Maya's team gave him a chance. "All ships concentrate fire on the largest enemy vessels," he ordered. "Ignore everything else. We're going for the command ships." The final battle was brutal and costly. Human ships threw themselves at the Void Hunter command vessels with desperate courage, sacrificing themselves to get close enough for effective attacks. The aliens who witnessed the battle were shocked by humanity's willingness to die for strategic objectives. When the quantum communication network finally collapsed, the effect was immediate and dramatic. Void Hunter ships across the galaxy suddenly stopped their coordinated attacks and began operating independently. Without central control, they became confused and ineffective, easy targets for human forces that had learned to exploit their weaknesses. The victory came at a terrible price. Half of humanity's space fleet was destroyed, and thousands of human soldiers and Marines had died in battles across dozens of worlds. But they had achieved something the Federation thought impossible. They had defeated an enemy through superior tactics and sheer determination. As the last Void Hunter, ships were destroyed or driven back into the empty space between galaxies. The galaxy began to count the cost of its first war in 50,000 years. The age of absolute peace was over, and humanity had been the ones to end it. The question now was whether the galaxy would thank them or fear them for what they had done. 6 months after the last Void Hunter ship was destroyed, the Galactic Federation convened for the most important vote in its 50,000-year history. The Great Chamber on Centris Prime was filled with representatives from every member species. But the atmosphere was very different from the peaceful discussions that had once characterized their meetings. Chancellor Vexthul's crystalline form had changed since the war began. Scars from battle damage crossed his body, permanent reminders of the day Void Hunters had attacked the capital world directly. His voice carried new gravity as he addressed the assembly. "We gathered today to decide humanity's future role in our Federation," he announced. "They have saved us all, but in doing so, they have fundamentally changed what our alliance represents. We must choose whether to embrace this change or attempt to return to our former ways." In the human section, Ambassador Kate Williams sat with Admiral Jake Morrison and General Sophie Martinez. They had been invited to observe the debate that would determine humanity's place in the galaxy. Kate noticed how other species looked at them now, with a mixture of gratitude, fear, and uncertainty that had never existed before the war. The ethereal representative spoke first, their musical voice carrying undertones of distress. "The humans saved us, this cannot be denied. But at what cost? We have witnessed violence on a scale that our species had forgotten was possible. Our young ones have nightmares about the battles they saw on the news feeds." Murmurs of agreement came from several sections. The war had traumatized many Federation species who had lived their entire lives believing that peace was the natural state of the universe. Seeing worlds destroyed and beings killed in massive numbers had shattered fundamental beliefs about civilization and progress. The Sauridian delegate offered a different perspective. "Before the humans, we were helpless against the Void Hunters. Our peace made us weak. Perhaps it is time to acknowledge that sometimes violence is necessary to protect what we value." This statement caused an uproar in the chamber. For many species, accepting the necessity of violence was like admitting that their entire philosophy of life had been wrong. They had built their societies on the belief that sufficiently advanced civilizations could solve all problems through reason and technology. Ambassador Shalthis stood to speak, her crystal body glowing with complex patterns that indicated deep emotion, I have worked closely with the humans for over a year. I have seen their capacity for both creation and destruction. They are not evil beings who enjoy violence. They simply understand something that we had forgotten, that peace must sometimes be defended through strength. Dr. Peter Hayes, who had been granted permission to address the assembly, stood at the human podium. Honored representatives, we never wanted to bring war to your galaxy. We would have preferred to live in your peaceful universe, contributing our culture and creativity while learning from your wisdom. But when faced with an enemy that threatened all life, we did what we believed was necessary. The debate continued for hours, with species after species expressing their views about humanity's role in the post-war galaxy. Some argued that humans should be given leadership positions in military affairs, since they had proven their effectiveness in combat. Others worried that human influence would eventually militarize the entire Federation. Chancellor Vexthul called for a recess so that species delegations could consult among themselves. During the break, Kate Williams walked through the corridors of the Federation building, overhearing fragments of conversation that revealed the deep divisions the war had created. They saved us, but they also corrupted us, she heard one delegate say. My people are building weapons for the first time in millennia. We tell ourselves it's for defense, but weapons change how you think about problems. Another voice replied, better to have weapons and not need them than to be helpless when the next threat appears. The humans have taught us that the universe is more dangerous than we believed. In the human quarters, Admiral Jake Morrison met with his senior officers to discuss their options. Whatever they decide, we need to be prepared, he said. Some of these species will never trust us again. They see us as dangerous, and maybe they're right. Colonel Danny Rodriguez, now promoted to general after his role in training Federation forces, disagreed. We're not dangerous to them. We're dangerous to their enemies. There's a difference. Captain Linda Hayes, who had commanded a cruiser during the final battle, pointed out another concern. The problem is that we've shown them something they can't unsee. They know now that their peaceful paradise only existed because nothing seriously threatened it. That knowledge changes everything. When the session resumed, the debates became more heated. The Crystalline Council proposed that humans be granted permanent seats on the Federation Security Board, with authority over all military matters. The Ethereal Collective suggested instead that humanity should be restricted from certain advanced technologies that could be used for warfare. The Insectoid Hive made the most disturbing suggestion of all. Perhaps we should consider whether humanity belongs in the Federation at all. They have skills that we need, but their presence changes us in ways that may be harmful to our spiritual development. General Martinez stood up abruptly at this comment. You're talking about exiling the species that saved your civilization? That's not just ungrateful, it's stupid. What happens when the next threat appears and you've sent away the only people who know how to fight it? The chamber fell silent at her blunt words. Federation representatives were not accustomed to such direct confrontation, but they could not argue with the logic. The war had proven that their peaceful philosophy, while admirable, was insufficient to protect them from all possible threats. Dr. Lisa Chen, who had been studying the psychological effects of the war on Federation species, requested permission to speak. Honored delegates, I understand your concerns about violence and militarization, but you're facing a false choice. You don't have to choose between being peaceful and being defensible. You can be both. She gestured to a holographic display showing Federation worlds. Your people are still peaceful. Your societies still value negotiation and cooperation. The only thing that has changed is that you now have the ability to protect those values when they're threatened. That's not corruption, that's growth. The final speeches were given by Chancellor Vexthul and Admiral Morrison. Vexthul spoke about the Federation's responsibility to all its members, including the humans who had sacrificed so much to protect them. Jake spoke about humanity's desire to remain part of the galactic community, while acknowledging that their role would necessarily be different from other species. When the voting began, the chamber was completely silent except for the soft sounds of the electronic ballot system. Representatives from 237 species cast their votes on humanity's future, while the beings who had saved them waited to learn their fate. The results were announced one species at a time. The Crystalline Council voted to grant humans expanded military authority. The Ethereal Collective voted against, preferring to limit human influence. The Sauridian Republic voted in favor. The Insectoid Hive voted against. As the count progressed, it became clear that the galaxy was almost evenly divided. Some species were grateful enough to trust humanity with greater responsibilities. Others were too frightened of what humans represented to accept their continued presence in positions of power. When the final tally was announced, Chancellor Vexthel's voice was heavy with the weight of history. 423 votes in favor of granting humanity permanent military authority within the Federation. 424 votes against. The galaxy had chosen to reject humanity's expanded role by a single vote. The chamber erupted in arguments as species representatives accused each other of ingratitude or recklessness. The unity that had once characterized the Federation had been shattered by the very act that had saved it. Admiral Morrison stood to address the assembly one final time. "We understand your decision and we respect it. Humanity will continue to serve as a Federation member, but we will not seek leadership roles in military affairs. We hope that if future threats emerge, you will remember that we stand ready to help defend the innocent, regardless of how you vote about our authority." As the session ended and delegates began to leave, Dr. Peter Hayes stood on the observation deck where Kate Williams had once marveled at the floating cities of Centris Prime. The view was the same, but everything else had changed. Military patrols now flew between the buildings. Defense platforms orbited the planet. The age of innocence was over. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Kate asked, joining him at the window. Peter watched a formation of human-designed fighters practice maneuvers above the city. "We saved them. Whether that was right or wrong, it was necessary. The question now is whether they can live with what they've become." The galaxy had voted to invite humanity because they seemed harmless. Now they would spend forever living with the consequences of that vote. Not because humans were dangerous, but because they had revealed that the universe itself was dangerous. The peaceful paradise that had existed for 50,000 years could never return, because everyone now knew how fragile it had always been.